Welcome to the Going Executive Director Show. Our purpose is to share with you the skills, techniques, inspiration, motivation, and the daily activities needed for you to build your profitable business. Remember, this is our team's philosophy. You need to do what's best for you and your team. So let's get out a pen and paper and take lots of notes. Jeff, back to you.
Awesome, guys. How is everybody? Antoinette's here. Welcome. Liana's here. Jen's here. What's going on? Morning. Little coffee. I got the beast one. She has the beauty one, so that's how we'll work. Sandy, how are you? Little coffee in the morning. So what we're going to talk about today is we were talking about form and meeting people and being able to get to know people. I got a really interesting question yesterday from Jim. Jim said, do you go to trade shows? I said, no, I do not go to trade shows. I do not set up booths to build businesses. Not that you can't. I just never have. The reason I've never done a booth inside of any type of convention or organization is for two reasons. First of all, I never have the time to do it because I have other things going on. But the second reason is I found that if you look at the people who walk through, let's say there's 800-900 people who walk through and there's 100 vendors. The 800 people who walk through are tire kickers in a lot of cases. Tire kickers meaning they're coming, they're looking to get free stuff, they're coming, trying to, buy something, looking for something, things like that. The people that I want to talk to are not the people in the audience. The people I want to talk to are the people at the booths. So what I'll do is instead of paying, $100, $500, $1,000, $1,200 for a booth, and then try to market to the 800 people who walk through, because that's how they try to get you to do this, is I will buy a ticket for $7 or $10, whatever it costs to get in, and I will go from booth to booth, and I will collect all of the business cards from all the people in the booths. For instance, once I get all the business cards from the people at the booths, what then I'll do is I'll wait 2 days, 3 days, let everybody get, acclimated back to wherever, and I'll start messaging those people. The very first thing I'm going to say is, hey, I just wanted to say thank you. I met you at whatever convention or whatever show that they had, and I'll say, hey, I met you at this show. I just picked up your card, had a great talk. I just wanted to say thanks, and I have a question for you. How did you do? Shamala's here. Hello. How did you do? Donald, what's going on? How did you do at this event? Was it profitable? Was it good for you? And typically they're going to respond in one of three ways. They'll be like, yes, and they may be lying. 2, they're kind of like, it was okay. I haven't really gotten back to everybody. Or 3, they're going to tell you, no, it was terrible. I really didn't get anything out of it at all. Which I don't care what the response is. I'm like, no problem. And I just try to create that conversation with them. When I'm picking up the cards, have a pen with you. Pick up the card, have a pen with you. On the back of the card, write down if you had a conversation with them about anything. The more you can remember or recall, and obviously if you're meeting 100 or 200 people, the notes are going to be really, really important from that event to remember anything you can remember about them. What I started doing specifically is, remember, compliments mean more to people than anything. If you can remember, especially if somebody's dressed really well, which unfortunately today most people do not dress up, so this is kind of harder and harder to do, but if they did dress well, that's something to note. If you liked something they did or something they said, that would be a great note to put down, because when you write them back through text message, I usually do text message. People are like, oh, I emailed everybody. Well, for those of you who don't know this, what's happening in Dallas, for those of you who don't know this, if you email people, the average email that goes out is not actually seen. Well, first of all, only 22% of emails are ever seen. Those people don't know that. 22% of emails are ever seen. So if you send 100 emails out, 22 people will see it. And then what will happen after that is, out of the 22% that actually maybe do open it and look at it, they're not going to see it for 16 hours till after you send it. That's just statistics. Another weird statistic is about 80 to 85% of people who do open and look at an email are only going to read the first line. So if you don't capture all their attention in the first line, they're not reading anything anyway. So sending email is not really your best methodology to building your business or contacting people. But watch this. With text messages, if you send 100 text messages, 96 of them are opened. 96% of text messages are opened in 6 minutes or less, and they're read. So a text message is going to be much, much, much more powerful, both in contacting and in follow-up. So at this point, I send out that message, and I'll say, hey, I met you at such and such, convention, such and such booth. It was awesome. By the way, I really liked I really liked the red crazy tie you had on, or I really liked the, Breitling watch that you had. That was awesome. If you remember stuff like that, guys, that's how to stand out. If you want to stand out and get in front of people like instantly, compliment them. Make sure it's real. Make sure it's genuine. I just wanted to compliment you on the space that you filled in the booth. Probably not the best compliment. You're saying that they're big or large or fluffy. I like Gabriel Iglesias. He's like, there's 6 stages. You want to get it right. If you don't understand that joke, don't bother.
YouTube it.
YouTube it, yeah. Gabriel Iglesias, fluffy. There's 6 levels of it. So meeting people, then I'm going to get back with people, and then I'm going to go from there after the compliment and say, hey, I have a quick question for you. Do you network with other professionals? Do you network with other professionals and trade referrals? Guys, that question, if you find a business card and you say, hey, I found your business card on the floor. I found your business card outside of a business. I found your business card at, it doesn't matter where. I'm just picking up a random one here just to see who this is. Davis Homes, Bradley Davis. Now this happens to be the owner of Davis Homes. And the reason being is I've met him, a friend of mine works for him. So if I was, gonna email him, I might do it a little bit differently because I wouldn't have probably met him at a trade show. But let's say I did pick up his card at the trade show. I was like, hey, I happen to be at the Homearama home show. And it just so happens that Davis Homes is the one that created the home at the home show this year. I know that because I followed it online. And they did an amazing job. It was like a 4,000 square foot custom home. It was really cool. They built it in like a week and a half and then took it down in a week. It was kind of sad to take it down. But I could actually say, hey, look, I was at the home show. I saw the house you built. You guys build amazing houses. I know that you're a super, super busy guy. But I did have a question for you. I'd love to be able to get together. Now, I can do this because I'm a real estate agent. Most people, if you don't have this background, this one wouldn't work. So this is going to be very, very specific to the profession you happen to be in. But I can say, look, I'm a realtor and I'm a real estate broker, and I would love, love, love to be able to, buy you lunch or buy you a cup of coffee and, network with you. And I might have something I wanted to run by you just to see if you can lead me to the right person. So basically, I'm telling him right what I want up front. I'm not saying, hey, I need a loan. I'm not saying I need money. I'm like, look, I'm working on something that involves the real estate industry. It might, what I do inside of Legal Shield actually does involve the real estate industry because I'm one of the only people that I know of that found a way to use Legal Shield to help people put their credit back together. That's kind of my niche in the industry. Those people who don't know that. Now, for those of you who are watching this, who do not know that Brandy and I are inside a company, this show in particular is about Brandy and I's company, the company that we're actually part of. And I found a way years ago. I had a free 6-step system. Hi, Shar. I had a free 6-step system to put people's credit together so I can actually advertise free credit repair. Free. It doesn't cost a thing to get my 6 steps and run people through it. I can put people back together. I've done it for years. I did it independently of any company for years. And then I happened to find Legal Shield. That was a company that I found in 2005. I think the end of 2005 I signed up. I didn't do anything till the end of 2006. And then I went insanely fast and put a bunch of people in it. Because it wasn't because I was good necessarily, or because I had all the context of the world. It was because the real estate business was falling apart, and I liked living indoors. In Indiana, it gets really cold. In Indiana, it gets really hot, and I like living indoors, and I liked eating. And if you like to live indoors and you like to eat, you have to make money in Indiana to keep paying your bills. So I was losing my real estate business. It was falling apart just like everybody's business was at the end of 2006. leading into 2007 when it started collapsing. And I went absolutely insane because I found a way to fix people's credit, or at least increase their credit score is the correct way to say this. I found a way to increase people's credit score, and I found that the services inside of Legal Shield helped me do it faster. So what I ended up being able to do is I ended up being able to help a single person for $35, and I ended up being able to help a couple for $50 a month. No contract, no long term. And there's nowhere in the country that I know of, and there's no company that I know of, that can help people put their credit back together for that little of money. And on top of that, they get all the other services. So that was kind of my niche, is what they call it. It's actually, some people pronounce it niche, but it's actually niche. That was my niche in the industry. So if I was to contact Brad, that's what I would ask him. Specifically, I would go and say, hey, do me a favor. I know, and at this point, I would mention that I know some of the people that work with him and say, this is something I want to. So this is where your character and how you do things mean a lot. This is where becoming a professional means a lot. I would guess, based on what I've done in the past and based on who I know who works at the company and friends of mine, I would be able to get that meeting with that guy. Now, is that the first meeting that I want to do? Probably not. I would want to get up and rolling and make sure the program's legit and I've got everything in line before I go contact a guy who does, millions and millions and millions of dollars in business and the real estate business. But I'm also not going to wait 10 years so I get to, 6 figures, 7 figures. He's on the list to talk to, and I'll probably talk to him, before the end of next month. Why? Because this was an initial list of cards that I'm going through. So let's say I'm trying to pick out somebody that, and I hate to use the word normal, but I want to use the word somebody that, isn't necessarily the top guy that I happen to pick out the top guy out of the list, at least money-wise. It doesn't mean he's the, best person overall. These are all network marketing cards that I met. Now, this is going to be interesting. How do I recruit network marketers? Clint. I do not know Clint, but I picked up Clint's card, and Clint is in HempWorks. So this is not, this show I'm going to talk about companies, and I'm going to talk about where people are at, so this is going to get interesting. I would contact Clint and say, hey, Clint, I happen to run into you at, whatever booth, and he was in HempWorks, so he's probably giving out samples, just guessing, at the event, which would be very cool. And, seems like a sharp guy. I did not meet this guy. I just got his card at one of the events. So what I would do is I would then call him or text him and say, hey, we met at this, convention, this booth, at one of the booths, and I saw the product line, looked really cool, and compliment him and then say, how did you do out of the event? He's probably not, most network marketers are always like, it's great, because we're told to say that. We're told to hype it up. It's great. Everything's great. How's the day? It's great. How was the car accident? It's great. How was the house that blew away? It's great. Everything's great. He's probably not going to tell me the exact truth of what happened, at least if I don't know him. But I'm like, awesome, fantastic. I'm glad that worked out like that. By the way, do you network with other professionals to get referrals? And most network marketers say yes to this, but I have had some that are insanely stupid that say no. And why I say insanely stupid is if you don't network and you're in network marketing, you are insanely stupid. Like, you don't understand the business you're in at all. So I'm being so obviously on this show, I'm not here to be nice. I'm here to be transparent and tell you exactly what it's going to take and why. So I apologize for how strong sometimes I come across. I'm doing this to prove a point, not to be mean. Although sometimes it takes being mean for people to understand certain things, so that way you grasp the concept. If you don't network people, you are insane. You don't belong in this business at all. So he's probably going to say, yeah, sure. I said, great. I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee. I'd love to, get lunch sometime. And he's like, yeah, sure. What side of town do you live on? I'm just looking at his number. His number is a 415, so I probably grabbed this out of state. So I did. So what I do is the next time that I'm up in Wisconsin, I believe that's where he's from, the next time I'd be up in Wisconsin, I was like, look, I'm going to be back up in Wisconsin or wherever. At that time, maybe we can grab where are you at specifically, and I'm going to get exactly where he's at specifically, and I'm going to set that time up. And then I'm going to go up there. Now, let's just say he's in town, because I picked out 2 cards back to back that don't make sense, but let's say he is in town and he just has a weird number from out of town. I said, great, let's grab coffee, and we set it up at Starbucks, or we set it up at Panera Bread. Guys, I always set it up at a place that normally you'd meet anyway, and there's a lot of business being done. From that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to learn all about his business. I'll be like, okay, and I'm going to ask very specific questions. So this is where it gets interesting. You need a pen and paper. I'm going to find out, I'm going to use form. This is, again, I said this week we're going to go into form. This is where I'd use form. Friendly. So how long have you lived in Indiana? Obviously you have a different number. When did you move here? Why did you move? What do you like about it? Okay, so, get into, married, kids, what's life look like right now? How old are the kids? What's life going on? What are the kids into? What sports? What music? What shows? How are they doing? And then I'll get into occupation. What do you do for a living outside of doing this? Because a lot of times people do network marketing part-time, at least most of the time. So I'm going to get into what the background is, and then recreational. And then I get down into the message. So how long have you been with HempWorks? Why did you choose that company? What do you like best about it? What reaction or effects have you had? What's the good, what's the bad, what's the ugly? And then I'm going to get down to real specifics. When I start asking questions like, how many people have you recruited? So how many people have you recruited? How many customers do you have? How does the comp plan work? I'm going to calculate out what this person's making. They probably don't understand what I'm doing, but I'm physically calculating out what they've made so far. Now, when I understand probably what they've made so far, I now have all the ammunition to recruit them. Now, is that kind of crazy? Yeah. Now, I'm going to do something that most network marketers would never do. I am going to show them what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show them how what I'm doing would make them more money faster than probably what they're doing, and where the competition is, and why we chose to do what we're doing. And yeah, I'm, a little bit more convincing than the average person, and I'm a really good teacher at this. That's another thing I'll always ask. So is their sponsor local? Do they have a local team? Do they have a local event? Oh no, you're out in the middle of nowhere doing this by yourself with no support. I find that a lot. I found that all the time. Now, I can train somebody over the phone just as well as I can train somebody face to face. I've gotten pretty decent at this, but you'll find that most network marketers sitting out in nowhere land, basically without support. They got in, their sponsor, sometimes it's in, sometimes it's out, sometimes it's quit. Happens a lot of times. It's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of how it works.
Or they have no support from their upline, which in my case with my first company, my upline was all out of state, so I had zero help from any of them.
So what do you got to do in that point? I'm here, I'm local. So after I calculate out what they make, I then show them what I do, and I show them how fast you can earn money inside of what we're doing, and say, look, if you ever, and again, I use the favor script at that point. I said, well, I'm going to need a favor too. I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and I'm going to show, typically at this point, because I got to know them and I got to know where they're at, I'm going to use what they told me as the example inside of when I show the business. So for instance, let's say this person has been in the business for 3 months, 90 days, or 6 months, because the average person, that's about where they're at. And let's say they sponsor 3-4 people. And based on their comp plan and what people buy, I'm going to find out what they've made so far. And I'll be like, look, inside of what we do, here's basically what your first 3 sales look like. Now, if we already know that you've recruited 3 people. So just look at this. If you recruit 3 people with us, here's the kind of money you make. Oh my gosh, you make that kind of money with 3 recruits? Yes. Once you get to 4, 5, 6, and you said you have how many customers? Well, see, in this plan, customers and recruits actually equal the same amount of money, all is based on our membership inside of Legal Shield. So I showed them what customers would equal and the recruits, and I add it all up, and I'll circle that number. The only thing most people will ever see if they're money driven is they'll see the number that I circled. At that point, you'll see the questions change if they're interested. You'll see the details get deeper. You'll see the questions get good, and we'll kind of go from there. Now, that's if I'm contacting a network marketer. That's usually not the person that I'm meeting at a event, but I'm just giving you an example of what I do. Hey, I'll be back in town at Brown Maggie wearing a t-shirt, black and shorts. See you at Blueberry at 1. Cool. So that's my appointment just confirming with me, which is awesome. Network marketing, network marketing, network marketing, network marketing, network marketing, network marketing. Okay, all these people are network marketing. That's crazy. I'm just trying to get one that's not. Transformational life health coach. That's network marketing. This is crazy. I did pick up a lot of network marketing people. Perfect. We Buy Homes. John Gooding. I'm going to use this one. So I ran into a We Buy Home, guys. Now, again, this happens to be industry specific, but I find out, I said, hey, I'm actually a realtor, but I don't do traditional real estate stuff. I'm also an investor, flip homes. I'd love to be able to get with you, talk, and he's like, yeah, that's cool. Great. Let's get together. And at that point, we'll set up a coffee. I'll sit down, find out all about his business, how long he's been in it, what he's done. Again, I use Form. And then what I'm looking for is if I get enough information from this person, what I'll do is I'll turn the information he gives me into the actual presentation. I'll use stuff that he said inside the presentation. This is why, if you learn your presentation, and this is why you memorize your presentation. If you do the same presentation over and over again, it becomes like second nature. Not only does it become like second nature, but you can then add things into it that are appropriate. But if I just sent him a video, it would never work. If I just sent him an email, it would never work. That's why the presentation, to learn the presentation, is so important. Because if you can get the presentation down, you have all these variables you can do. So that's if we're contacting, and I thought that was really cool. There was a guy named Jerry who happens to work with us in our school online, and he's the one who actually asked me that question and said, hey, I have all these business cards. I went to this trade show, walked around, picked up 200 business cards. How do I contact them? And we were just walking through, sending them sending them a text message saying, hey, met you at such and such event. Just wanted to compliment you on how great of a job you did. Had a good time. By the way, have a question for you. So you can always lead into any conversation with a question. And Tony Robbins says the quality of your question has to do with the quality of your relationship. It also has the quality of building the relationship. Most of you go too fast into sell. What's happening, Jim? Most of you sell too fast. So what happens is you'll get that same business card, and because you don't know any of the professional way that people do things, what you're going to do right away is you're going to pick up that exact same business card and you're going to text them, hey, I met you at this. Are you open to other ways of making money? Guaranteed 99% of networkers, that's what they're going to do. Hey, are you open to a home-based business? A, you haven't established rapport. B, they don't know who the hell you are because you haven't. You picked up their card and you met at a trade show where they met 800 other people. You haven't identified yourself. You haven't connected with them at all. So John Maxwell says everybody communicates but few connect. This is a perfect example of that. This is where people try to sell and they don't really connect with the person first. They don't build any rapport. And here's the thing, you don't have to have a long-term relationship with people to recruit them. You don't. You need rapport. Rapport is just things in common. I might have to turn this over to you, Andy, for a minute. But Brandy's been doing leads. So I'm going to have you go into, because we were talking about this yesterday, about leads and just what you went through yesterday, and just if you can go through the numbers and show people, here's what the numbers are really like. People think they're going to buy leads and they're going to talk to 7 out of 10 and they're going to get in. Yeah. So Brandy's going to cover that real quick.
Alrighty. Sorry, it's allergy season and we're both draining. But we got that covered. He'll be okay. So yeah, I went through leads yesterday. So when I go through leads, I like to put together all of my numbers of how many people I texted. So I always start all of my messages to these people with text message because that's what people are comfortable with now. And that is how I reach out rather than calling people, because I don't know if you do this, but if you have a phone number that you don't know that's calling you, do you answer? I know I don't. So I usually ignore it. So I text everybody first, and I keep all my numbers together of how many people I contacted, how many of them actually answered or at least got back to me, and then how many people did I present to. So I texted 100 leads yesterday, and what I texted them was, hi, my name is Brandy. My office passed me your number. Are you still looking for work? Now, if they get back to me, I'll usually get a yes, or they're like, who is this? How'd you get my number? Or they're just flat out no. I've had a couple of people text me stop because they thought I was an automated message and that I was just going to keep messaging them. So then I messaged them again. I'm like, no, this is not an automated message. I'm literally asking you if you're looking for work. So a yes or no will suffice, and I'll get back, and they'll get back to me. So that's how I do that. So out of 100 people, I had 23 who messaged me back, or at least answered me. And then I presented to 3 people, and then I have a 4th one that I have set up for today from somebody yesterday, but she ended up messaging me at 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, well, it's a little too late to be talking to you right now. I'll talk to you tomorrow, because also keep in mind you do have to get back to people at reasonable hours, even if they do not. So, because otherwise that says a lot about your business too. If you're talking to people, talking to a lead at 11 o'clock at night, unless they've instructed, you know what, this is when I get off of work, would it be possible for me to talk at that time? Then there's an exception. But for the average person, I'm not talking to them at 11 o'clock at night, because then that says a lot about your business, and it doesn't come across as very professional to the average person. Because the point of doing the leads and talking with them is to set it up as the language of the normal workplace that people are used to. Because when you start using a lot of network marketing terms like opportunity, home-based business, it scares people away. Excuse me. So that's how I initially contact them. And then once they do get back to me, if they say yes, I'm like, okay, great. Do you have time for a 15-minute phone interview? And what I do, I actually pre-qualify all these leads. I make sure they have a phone. Obviously, if I'm texting them, they have a phone. I make sure they have a car. And I also make sure that they have another income coming in and they're looking for part-time work, because it's a lot harder to work with a team that doesn't have a job. Because I don't know if you've had any people on your teams that are like that, where they don't have an income coming in, then they're freaking out because they're like, oh my God, what did I just get myself into? And they have bills that they need to pay. All right. So anywho, I'm going to try to cut this short because we are running over. So that's what I do with leads. And then I run them, I pre-qualify, I do the presentation, and I'm like, great, if this is what, these are the 3 people we're looking for, which one are you most interested in? They pick one, and I'm like, great, I'm going to have you go talk to our sales manager, and he's going to be able to go over how we get paid, what the training involves, and what you need to do to get started. And I'll actually send them to Jeff, and then he'll go over how we get paid. And then it's just on a scale of 1 to 10, 1, you can refer us, or 10, this is something you want to do, where are you at? And then Jeff will close. So we have a step-by-step system of how we do that. Okay. Anything else?
That's it. It's a wrap.
All right, cool. Sorry we had to cut it short today, guys. We will see you. Is today Wednesday? Mm-hmm. Okay, I can't remember what day it is. We'll see you tomorrow.